Hello, everybody. Welcome to this webinar and our interview with Tim from Hospital Rooms. He's a multidisciplinary artist working in installations, light sculptures, and painting. He's the co-founder of Hospital Rooms, so he works with a range of artists to transform mental health spaces with site-specific artworks. So Tim has a really deep understanding of how art interacts with and impacts spaces, and I'm really excited to pick his brains about really building opportunities for your work to be shown in maybe spaces that you might not have thought about. So, Tim, welcome and thanks for joining.
Thanks very much for having me.
So, how did you get started? How did you get this idea off the ground?
Basically, 10 years ago now, a really close friend of ours was in an inpatient mental health unit after a suicide attempt, and visiting that very good friend in that space was a really shocking thing. It was very difficult seeing someone who you care about and love in a space that's so cold and clinical and inhumane. And we just thought, why don't we try and do a project like we do for a gallery or museum or a collector in a mental health unit and see what happens in an inpatient mental health unit, to be specific, because they're so separate from the rest of the world. You go behind these double airlock doors, they're incredibly clinical. Understandably, they're very risk-averse spaces because you can't have a framed artwork on the wall or a canvas or anything that produced from the wall. So we thought, well, why don't we use some of the knowledge that we have to create really amazing artworks for inpatient mental health units and see what happens. When we had the idea, we thought, it's probably not going to be easy. It was a lot harder than we thought it was going to be because all the trusts that we got in touch with said, well, one, you can't just bring people into these wards. You can't bring artists in and bring materials in. It just doesn't work like that. Some were saying, where's the data that says that this is going to be good and not harmful? Others just said we haven't got the capacity. But we thought if we can do one project and show people that it works, then we're sure that maybe this could happen again. We went and we did a project in a unit for people with a diagnosis of schizophrenia. Very long stay, people generally there 2 or 3 years. Some people have been there 10 years, one guy been there 40 years. It had an amazing team, amazing occupational therapists, but it was very bland. And we went through that project in a slightly wrong order, but we made something really good and we managed to make it work. And that's something we've kept going all along. And then we spent the next 3.5 years raising money in the evenings and being on site painting and doing workshops. And we just went one project to the next. And then we got to 2019 and suddenly, I can't remember what it was. It might have been a piece on Channel 4 News or in The Guardian or something, but it went from like one project after the other to having dozens and dozens of units getting in touch like monthly. So we started being able to build a little bit of a team, doing slightly more projects. And then we've grown from there. We're now a national portfolio organisation with Arts Council. So we're sort of heavily regulated and there's good and bad things about that, but we get to reach more people. So it's worked out well.
Any advice for artists who want to see their work in spaces like hospitals that could just be alternative spaces to do site-specific work?
I mean, I've got to say, I am someone who very much believes the art that's being made in a bedroom or in a studio or gets shown in a gallery is incredibly valuable, and it doesn't always have to have social justice at the heart of it. But I mean, I can speak from my experience, and I found after graduating it quite tough. I still made work constantly, even when I worked in a warehouse or a stockroom. But having something else to do really helped me. And looking back, I think my dream, is with many artists, especially people who are graduating almost 20 years ago when I was, the dream was to get a gallery or to show in a gallery, to sell work. There was that kind of, that's the way that I'm going to get to make work all the time. But as I became, I was doing other work to make money, I learned so much that I wouldn't have learned from not doing other things with other people. And I think also it's about thinking of other things that aren't just working in the studio as a big part of your creative practice and doing other projects, working with other people. One of the other things that even I've done is we've run a art prize for artists who are not very established yet. Mostly haven't got a gallery yet. We've won an art prize for 11 rounds, £7,500 award. We see all of this in Hospital Rooms as a big part of our creative practice, not just what we make and what we curate. It's all sort of incredibly interesting. For us, when we're looking for artists, it's very much about how we can have a sort of diverse mix of approaches to making work. So some of it is about co-production or co-creation, people who want to work with the community to create something together. But we work with other artists who just want to make an amazing artwork. And we want to work with people who are at different stages of their career as well. So some of those artists will be household names. It'll be Sonia Boyce, who represented Britain at the Venice Biennale. It'll be Herman Anderson, who's one of our greatest painters. Or it'll be Michaela Wadan, who's got a show opening at Hauser Wirth tomorrow night. We'll have a lot of those artists. But we also have artists that we think are just really interesting, who've got something to say, who are relevant to that project. And sometimes that relevance is to do with lived experience. So lived experience of these kind of spaces. But the reality is, and saying this from someone who has to choose artists, there's a lot of brilliant artists out there, and it's not an easy road. And once you get there, a lot of the artists that we know that you think, wow, they've got the perfect career, still can be quite unsatisfied, and things can be very, very difficult. And even Turner Prize nominated artists can struggle to make a living. I think the thing that sort of brings people joy that we see is finding real meaning in what you do and enjoying the process of it and enjoying the difficulty of it, because Hospital Rooms is a good example of that, where it hasn't become any easier over 9 years. We've got a lot more help, we've got a lot more people, but the challenges change. But we've learned, and it's taken us a while just to go, what lucky people we are to do something that we're really passionate about. And before that, being able to make work after working in a warehouse in my room in South London was a savior for me.
If an artist wants to see their work in hospitals and really, really wanted to work with you, how is that process? Do artists apply? Do they send an email? Do they send a portfolio? Do you get in touch? So how do you find artists to work with?
So mostly we get in touch with the artists. We know that we want to work with artists in different levels of their career. We do have an open call, so on our website people can submit their portfolio, their work, and then that goes through to our curators. The reality is there's a lot of artists who get in touch with us, and we can only work with about 40 artists a year. So the odds aren't great, and it's not because the art isn't great. I'm sure you've probably heard other people talking about this too, that there's, it's the kind of it's not you, it's me is often true. Being out there is a really important thing. Doing something interesting under your own steam is a really interesting thing. And then giving people the opportunity to see your work opens up opportunities for people to sort of pick you for things as well. Some of the artists we work with are already represented by galleries. They'd be well known. We'd go, this artist would be incredible for this. But then we do take a punt on a lot of artists who are early in their career, whatever the age they are. We love sort of taking a chance on people and giving people the opportunity to do that. There is also sometimes like a local element as well. So if we're doing a project in Southwest Yorkshire, it might be that a good number of those artists live in Yorkshire or have a connection there. When we worked in Cornwall, really interesting, because in Cornwall, it was really important to the trust in Cornwall and to the patients. They said, we really want Cornwall represented very strongly in this, because people in Cornwall love Cornwall, and I can understand why. But it had a very Cornish feeling project. There was a lot of elements of the sea. And also it's so easy to work with really good artists in Cornwall because there's so many great studios, so many great artists working there. So it's very complex and it's different every time. But being out there is an important thing. And then the last thing I'll say is also, because we can't work with most of the artists that we'd like to, or would like to work with us, doing your own projects is a really great way of doing something really interesting. So what we hope is that we're opening doors for other people to be able to do these projects. If you say, well, these hospital rooms have done this before, there might be other organizations doing this in hospitals. The fact that you could go and approach a hospital and say, could I do this? Do you have some funding? Could I raise some funding myself? Could I get a project lined up and then go to Arts Council for a Develop Your Creative Practice grant, or go for a small project grant and do that myself? These are like really interesting ways to test things out yourself and do interesting projects.
Thanks for watching this video. If you want to watch the full 1-hour interview and get top tips from an expert, then click the link below and join the Art Ladder mentoring program now. By joining the Art Ladder, you will get access to our full library of webinars with curators, collectors, critics, gallerists, and more. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more videos like this, and check out the description below for more free resources for artists.